That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The wind howled across the training grounds at Naval Base Coronado, whipping sand from the dunes into stinging veils that blurred the horizon. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant stood at attention with his unit, the salt air thick in his lungs, his boots planted firm on the damp gravel path. The sky hung low and bruised, a storm front rolling in from the Pacific like an uninvited superior. It was 0600 hours, and the SEAL Team 7 handlers had assembled for their standard K9 integration drill, precision exercises designed to sharpen the bond between man and dog in adverse conditions. Elias's gloved hand rested lightly on the harness of his partner, Rex, a Belgian Malinois with fur matted from the morning mist, his dark eyes scanning the perimeter with that unerring focus only a combat-proven canine could muster. "Team, form up!" barked Senior Chief Petty Officer Harlan Reyes, the operations lead, his voice cutting through the rising gale like a knife. Reyes was a veteran of 2 deployments, his frame solid under the rain-slicked tactical vest, insignia gleaming faintly on his collar. The handlers snapped into position, 12 in total, their canines heeling silently at their sides, German Shepherds, Labs, Malinois, all trained for detection, patrol, and the quiet vigilance that saved lives in the shadows of missions. Elias, at 34, was the quiet anchor of the group, his record clean and his instincts honed from years in the sandbox. Rex had been with him since Kandahar, their partnership forged in the dust of patrols, where one wrong scent could mean ambush. The dog pressed his flank against Elias's leg now, a subtle warmth against the chill, as if sensing the shift in the air. The drill commenced with mechanical efficiency. Commands echoed, forward march, heel and scan. The unit moved in formation toward the mock urban terrain, a cluster of concrete barriers and shipping containers simulating a forward operating base. Radios crackled faintly in Elias's earpiece, coordinating positions, while the first fat drops of rain pattered on their helmets. Rex's nose worked the ground, nostrils flaring at invisible trails, his tail a low flag of concentration. Elias murmured low encouragements. "Good hold, boy," his voice steady, the words more ritual than affection. In the SEAL world, bonds like theirs weren't sentimental. They were operational necessities, lifelines in the chaos of insertion and exfil. But as the team rounded the eastern perimeter, a jeep screeched to a halt at the edge of the field, its tires kicking up mud. A base security officer leaped out, rain already beading on his coveralls. "Lieutenant Commander Grant," he shouted, saluting hastily. "Emergency divert. Civilian alert from local PD. 8-year-old boy missing from the edge of the installation. Storm hit hard last night. Families frantic. Command's pulling your unit for search support." Reyes stepped forward, his expression unchanging. "Details, Ensign?" The officer briefed them rapidly. The boy, Tommy Hale, had wandered off during a family picnic near the base's wooded access trail yesterday evening. Thunder had rolled in, visibility dropped to 0, and by dawn, search parties from the civilian side had turned up nothing. No tracks, no sightings, just the relentless downpour erasing any hope of clues. Base Command, citing protocol for joint operations, had authorized SEAL K9 assets. "Winds are picking up to 40 knots, the ensign added. "ETA on full mobilization, 15 mics. Elias felt Rex tense beside him, the dog's ears perking at the urgency in the voices. The unit's routine shattered like glass under boot heel. Handlers exchanged glances, a ripple of disciplined concern passing through the ranks. Reyes nodded curtly. "Grant, your lead on point with Rex. The rest, gear check and saddle up. This isn't a drill. Treat it as live op. Chain of command holds. My orders, your execution." They loaded into the transport vehicles, the hum of engines drowning the storm's growl. Elias secured Rex in the reinforced crate, the dog's gaze locking onto his through the mesh, trust absolute, unspoken. As the convoy rumbled toward the trailhead, Elias reviewed the op in his mind. Grid search, scent acquisition from the boy's clothing, standard perimeter sweep. But something gnawed at him, a veteran's intuition sharpened by too many variables left to chance. The woods bordering the base were dense scrub oak and eucalyptus, roots tangled like tripwires, the kind of terrain where echoes played tricks and visibility shrank to arm's length in the rain. By 07:30, they were boots down at the trailhead, a muddy clearing flanked by swaying pines. Local responders, 2 sheriff's deputies and a cluster of fire personnel waited under ponchos, their faces etched with exhaustion. The father, a wiry civilian contractor named Mike Hale, clutched a sodden backpack, the boy's favorite toy inside for scent work. He was just playing by the stream, Hale stammered, voice breaking against the wind. Called for him when the rain started. Nothing. Elias took the backpack, letting Rex sniff it methodically. The dog committed the scent in seconds, pawing the ground once in acknowledgement. Ready, Elias reported to Reyes over the radio, his tone clipped. The team fanned out, K9 units on leashes extended to 10 feet, handlers calling intervals. Grid Alpha clear, moving to Bravo. Rain lashed their faces, turning the earth to slurry underfoot. But discipline held, the unit a machine of synchronized movement, radios buzzing with position checks. Rex led strong at first, nose low, pulling Elias through the underbrush toward a swollen creek. The trail was a ribbon of chaos, branches snapped by wind, leaves plastered like wet camouflage. An hour in, the dog's pace quickened, veering left into thicker foliage. Elias followed, heart rate steady under his vest, until Rex halted abruptly at the base of a gnarled oak, its trunk twisted like a sentinel in the storm. The Malinois planted his paws, refusing to budge, a low whine escaping his throat, not fear, but insistence. Elias tugged the leash gently. Forward, Rex. Heel. But Rex didn't yield. His head tilted toward a cluster of roots at the tree's base, snuffling intently, then sat firm, eyes fixed on Elias with that piercing clarity. The rest of the team was 30 yards back, voices faint through the rain. Reyes's voice crackled. "Grant, status, we're off-grid here. Push through or report." Elias knelt, rain dripping from his brow, scanning the roots. Nothing visible, no clothing, no sign. Protocol demanded continuation. Maintain momentum, cover ground before the storm worsened. Yet Rex's refusal wasn't random. It was a signal, the kind that had pulled them from IEDs in the dark. To ignore it meant overriding the bond, the very trust that defined their edge. Elias's hand hovered on the leash, the weight of command pressing like the sodden sky above. Obey the op-tempo or trust the instinct that had saved lives before. In that suspended moment, with the wind tearing at his collar and the boy's fate hanging unseen, Elias made his choice, not with words, but with silence. He unclipped the leash. "Stay," he murmured to Rex, then keyed his radio. "Reyes, potential hit at the oak. Requesting backup for dig." The line went quiet for a beat, the storm filling the void as the first ripple of defiance coursed through the chain. The rain intensified as Elias waited for Reyes's response, sheets of it slicing sideways through the canopy, turning the forest floor into a slick mire that sucked at his boots. Rex remained seated, unblinking, his wet fur clinging to his ribs like a second skin, the whine in his throat now a steady rumble that vibrated against Elias's knee. The dog's focus never wavered from the exposed roots, where rainwater pooled in shallow depressions, carving tiny rivulets that carried the scent of damp earth and something sharper, elusive. Elias's pulse thrummed in his temples, not from exertion but from the fracture in protocol he'd just initiated. Unclipping the leash wasn't defiance outright. It was a handler's prerogative in the field, but calling for a dig without visual confirmation. That skirted the edge of operational discretion, inviting scrutiny from a chain that prized momentum over intuition. Static hissed in Elias's earpiece, then Reyes's voice cut through, measured but edged with impatience. Negative on the dig, Grant. No probable cause. Storms erasing tracks faster than we can lay 'em. Push to Sector Delta. Hale's scent article is our lead, not hunches. Acknowledge. Elias's jaw tightened under the brim of his cap, water tracing cold paths down his neck into the collar of his jacket. He glanced at Rex, the Malinois' ears forward, body coiled with that preternatural certainty. In training manuals, K9 alerts were to be noted and logged, but in a live search like this, joint op with civilians breathing down their necks, deviating meant paperwork, questions, potential reprimand. The unit's efficiency was its armor. Hesitation could cascade into lost time, broader exposure, yet Elias had seen Rex pull miracles from thinner air, a hidden cache in Fallujah, a downed teammate's blood trail under monsoon sheets. To reel him in now felt like betraying the pact, the silent oath that kept them both alive. Acknowledge, Elias replied, his voice level, betraying none of the internal churn. But he didn't move. Instead, he dropped to one knee beside the dog, gloved fingers probing the root cluster gently, parting sodden leaves and mud. The soil yielded reluctantly, cold and heavy, revealing nothing but tangled fibers and the faint gleam of a buried acorn. No sign, no anomaly. Doubt flickered. Had the storm muddled the scent? Overridden Rex's finely tuned nose with its own chaos. Elias's breath fogged briefly in the chill, his mind replaying the op brief, grid by grid, no rabbit trails. Reyes was right. The father's desperation didn't alter the procedure. From the underbrush behind him, footsteps splashed closer, two handlers from the flank team, Petty Officer Second Class Lena Torres and her shepherd Kira, breaking formation to close the gap. Torres, mid-20s, with a fresh scar above her eye from a stateside mishap, saluted crisply despite the downpour. "Sir, Reyes sent us to assist. Said you flagged something?" Elias rose, wiping mud from his gloves on his thigh. "Rex halted here, strong alert, but no visual. Reyes wants us to press on." Torres nodded, her face impassive under the hood of her poncho, but her eyes flicked to the dog, reading the tension in his stance. Kira paced at her side, nose twitching in sympathy, though she hadn't locked on. "These woods are a mess, LT. Last storm like this, we lost a drone for hours. Could be false positive from the runoff." "Could be," Elias echoed, the words tasting like concession. He reclipped Rex's leash, the metal snap echoing too loudly in his ears, and signaled forward. The dog resisted for a heartbeat, paws digging in, before yielding with a reluctant huff. They pushed on, the team reconverging through the thickening trees, radios updating positions in clipped bursts. "Bravo clear, Echo inbound." The creek swelled nearby, its roar a constant undertone, drowning the subtler sounds of the forest, the snap of twigs, the distant call of a crow. An hour blurred into the grind, leashes taut, boots plunging through brambles, the unit carving a wider arc toward the base's eastern fence line. Elias's focus narrowed to Rex's lead, the dog's gait steady but strained, frequent pauses to recast the scent. The storm showed no mercy, lightning flickering through the clouds like muzzle flashes, thunder rolling in delayed booms that set the K9s on edge. Hale's father trailed the perimeter with the deputies, his silhouette a ghost in the grey, shouting Tommy's name into the void until his voice cracked raw. By Joe 9:30, fatigue etched the team, wet gear chafing skin, muscles protesting the uneven terrain. They paused at a natural break, a rocky outcrop overlooking a ravine where the creek forked. Reyes gathered the handlers in a tight huddle, his tack light cutting through the gloom to illuminate a soggy map. "Regrouping here. No hits yet. Scents dispersing. Grant, your dog's been pulling left, double back if needed, but keep it tight. Civilians are pushing for air support, but command's holding off till we exhaust ground assets. Elias met Reyes's gaze, the senior chief's eyes hard as flint under the rain-slicked brow. No mention of the oak stop, but the omission hung heavy, a silent log in the after-action ether. Understood, Chief. Rex is still on it. Strong commitment. Reyes grunted, clapping a hand on Elias's shoulder, a rare gesture. Firm with the weight of shared deployments. Trust the tools, LT, but the clock's ticking. Hale's on the verge, one wrong call, and this blows back on all of us. As the team dispersed again, Elias lingered a moment, scanning the ravine below. The wind carried a faint metallic tang, mingling with the petrichor, but Rex didn't react. Doubt gnawed deeper now, a quiet erosion. Had he projected his instincts onto the dog? Overridden procedure for a gut feeling that might cost the search? The chain of command wasn't just ranks, it was the scaffold holding chaos at bay, ensuring no single thread unraveled the whole. They resumed, Rex leading into the ravine's shadow, the path narrowing to a single file of dripping figures. Elias's radio buzzed sporadically. Deputy updates on the family, weather worsening, ETA on relief teams. Then midway down the slope, Rex stiffened again, not at a tree, but at a jumble of fallen branches, half submerged in the creek. He strained against the leash, nose buried in the debris, a urgent bark breaking his silence for the first time that morning. Elias halted the line, heart quickening. Contact! Possible secondary alert. He keyed the radio, voice steady despite the surge. Reyes, Rex has a hit in the ravine. Debris pile, strong response. Recommend sweep. The pause stretched, rain hammering like suppressed fire. Reyes's reply came measured. Hold position. I'm en route with Torres. No action till I confirm. As the senior chief approached through the mist, Elias knelt by Rex, the dog's body heater anchor in the cold. The moral fault line widened, protocol versus the bond, orders versus the life possibly tangled below. In the SEAL ethos, loyalty wasn't blind. It was calibrated, tested in moments like this, where one choice could redefine trust across the ranks. Elias's hand rested on Rex's head, the gesture subtle, resolute, as the team waited in disciplined silence, the storm bearing witness. Reyes emerged from the mist like a shadow detaching from the trees, his boots splashing methodically through the creek's edge, poncho flapping against his vest. The ravine walls rose steep on either side, slick with moss and runoff, narrowing the world to a corridor of grey rock and churning water. Elias held position, Rex's leash taut in his fist, the Malinois' body rigid as he pawed at the debris pile. Twisted branches snarled with vines, half sunk in the swollen current. The dog's bark had subsided to a low growl, nostrils flaring against the onslaught of scents. Rot from upstream, the metallic bite of wet stone, and something faint, human-touched, threading through it all. "Report," Reyes said, coming to a halt beside them, his eyes sweeping the pile without expression. Torres flanked him, Kira heeling close, her shepherd's ears pinned back against the wind. The rest of the unit formed a loose perimeter uphill, handlers scanning the slopes, radios muted to conserve battery in the damp. "Strong alert, Chief," Elias replied, keeping his tone even, gloved hand steady on Rex's harness. He zeroed in 30 seconds ago, nose deep, vocal confirmation, sense consistent with the article, no diversion. Reyes crouched, parting the branches with a tactical knife, the blade glinting dully under the overcast sky. Mud caked the edges, and the water lapped higher now, tugging at the pile like insistent fingers. He probed for a full minute. Silence broken only by the rain's patter and Rex's impatient huff. Nothing surfaced, no fabric, no small shoe half buried. Reyes straightened, wiping the blade on his thigh. Negative visual, Could be animal wash-in, raccoon, deer trail masking the boys. We're not equipped for extraction here, current's too strong. Mark the cords and pull back to the ridge. Deputies can drag-line it later. Elias felt the words land like a withheld order, the kind that tested resolve without raising voices. Rex shifted, whining softly, his gaze flicking between the debris and Elias's face, a silent plea woven into the bond they'd built over countless drills and ops. Protocol was clear. Alerts got logged, not chased into hazards without confirmation. The ravine posed risks, flash flood potential, unstable footing that could sideline the whole team, invite command-level review. But pulling away now, after the oak, felt like compounding doubt, eroding the trust that made Rex more than a tool. Acknowledged, Elias said, but his feet didn't move. He scanned the pile again, noting how the branches interlocked unnaturally, as if weighted down. Rex doesn't false on this. Permission to clear a section manually, 5 minutes tops. If nothing, we disengage clean. Reyes's gaze sharpened, rain tracing rivulets down his weathered face. The senior chief was no stranger to field calls. His own K-9 runs in the Gulf had saved squads from worse. But joint ops like this amplified stakes. Civilians watching, base PR on the line if the search dragged. You're pushing discretion, Grant. Chain says mark and move. Hale's crew is orbiting the trailhead. One slip, and we're explaining to the brass why SEAL assets are playing archaeologist. Torres shifted beside them, her voice low. Chief, the dog's locked. I've seen Malinois pull sense through worse. Chemical sims in the desert. Worth a quick check? Reyes considered. The storm's rumble underscoring the pause. Lightning cracked distant, illuminating the ravine's depths in stark white. Finally, he nodded once. 3 minutes. Torres, assist. Grant, you lead, but if it goes south, it's on you. Radio silence till clear. They set to work with practiced efficiency, knives slicing vines, hands hauling sodden wood aside. The water rose to their calves, cold seeping through neoprene boots, but focus held, Elias directing Rex to indicate hotspots, the dog circling tight, barking sharp at a submerged tangle. Mud sucked at their grips, the pile resisting like a fortified position until Torres's blade caught on something yielding, not branch but canvas. She froze, then tugged carefully, revealing a small red backpack, sodden and torn, its strap snagged on roots below. "Contact!" she reported, voice steady. Elias leaned in, Rex straining forward, and together they freed it. Inside, waterlogged but intact, a child's drawing, crayon smeared, and a name tag, Tommy Hale, stitched in faded thread. No body, but the find pierced the grey like a flare. Reyes keyed his radio immediately, the static cutting the tension. "Command, this is Reyes. Positive on personal effects in Ravine Echo, boy's backpack, viable lead, requesting EOD and medevac prep, terrain's dicey." The response came swift. Acknowledgements from base, the sheriff's office chiming in with coordinates. Up the slope, the unit stirred, handlers relaying the update in hushed tones, a ripple of grim purpose passing through. Hale's voice broke over the open channel, raw and disbelieving. "You found it! My boy's pack, God, please!" Elias secured the backpack in a waterproof pouch, Rex sitting alert at his side, tail thumping once against the wet earth. A rare affirmation. The dog had bridged the gap where human eyes failed, his refusal at the oak now retroactively validated as the scent's upstream pull. But as the team exfiltrated the ravine, Reyes fell in step beside Elias, his expression unreadable. "Solid call, LT, but that oak stop earlier. Log it straight in the debrief. Intuition's your edge, but change the frame. One more like that without backup, and it bites us all." Elias nodded, the weight of the sodden pouch heavy on his shoulder. The find brought time, hope, But the moral seam strained. Loyalty to Rex clashed with the rigid tempo of command, each deviation a potential fracture in the unit's cohesion. As they crested the ridge, the storm easing to a persistent drizzle, deputies swarmed in with floodlights, the search pivoting to the creek's bend. Elias watched Hale clutch the retrieved pack, the man's shoulders shaking in silent thanks, while Rex pressed close, sensing the shift from hunt to hold. Back at the trailhead by 1100, the convoy idled under clearing skies, handlers drying gear in the transport's lee. Reyes debriefed the group in a tight circle, his voice carrying over the fading wind. Backpacks athread. Scent trail likely washed downstream. Commands looping in divers. We're on standby till 1400. Grant. Rex earned the ribbon today. Rest him. The unit dispersed with nods and quiet claps on backs, the bond of the morning's grind unspoken but palpable. Elias settled Rex in the crate, brushing mud from his coat, the dog's head resting heavy on his paws. The defiance at the oak lingered in Elias's mind. A quiet test passed, but not forgotten. Orders followed, yet bent just enough to honor the instinct that bound them. In the SEAL code, such choices rippled outward, shaping not just the op, but the trust that held the line against the unknown. As the sun pierced the clouds, casting long shadows over the woods, Elias keyed his personal log, noting the alerts in precise detail. The boy's fate hung on the next hours, but the real reckoning brewed in the after-action. How far could one handler's conscience stretch before the institution demanded alignment? The radio hummed with updates, divers inbound, family holding vigil, and Elias felt the subtle tremor in his hand on the crate's latch, the cost of integrity etching deeper into the routine. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The afternoon sun slanted through the thinning clouds, turning the trailhead into a patchwork of light and lingering shadow, the air heavy with the scent of wet pine and diesel from the idling transports. Elias leaned against the Humvee's fender, his jacket steaming faintly as it dried. Rex dozing at his feet with one ear cocked toward the woods. The unit stood down in shifts, handlers rotating through quick chow, energy bars and lukewarm coffee from thermoses, while deputies coordinated with the incoming divers at the creek's bend. The backpack's recovery had injected urgency into the operation. Hale's family huddled under a tent canopy nearby, the father's eyes red-rimmed but fixed on the ravine like a sentry on watch. Radios crackled with procedural updates, water depth readings, thermal scans prepped for low light, the chain of command threading every transmission with precision. Reyes approached Elias during the lull, his stride measured, tablet in hand for preliminary notes. Debrief starts at 1400 sharp, Grant. Brass from base securities joining, want the full log on those alerts. Oak first, then the ravine. Keep it factual. What the dog did, what you called. Elias nodded, accepting the tablet to input chords from his GPS. Will do, Chief. Rex's hits were clean. Scent progression from the tree downstream. No embellishment. Reyes paused, his gaze drifting to the dog, then back. Good. But that unclip at the oak, off script. Handlers have leeway in the field, but joint ops mean eyes everywhere. Hale's a contractor, one whiff of cowboy play, and it circles back to unit readiness. The words weren't accusation, more a calibration, the senior chief's way of reinforcing the frame without fracture. Elias absorbed it, the subtle weight settling like damp gear on his shoulders. In their world, discretion was currency. Spend it wrong and trust eroded from the top down. By 1330, the divers splashed in, neoprene-suited figures vanishing into the creek's froth, bubbles rising like suppressed signals. The SEAL team observed from the ridge, providing K9 overwatch, Rex and the others stationed at intervals, noses attuned to any shift in the air. Elias walked the line with Reyes, logging wind vectors and humidity, the routine a thin veil over the underlying tension. Hale approached then, flanked by a deputy, his face gaunt under the stubble. "Lieutenant, That pack, it's Tommy's. He never goes anywhere without it. Your dog. He knew, didn't he? Elias met the man's eyes, his response clipped per protocol. No promises, no personal stakes. The K9 team's trained for detection, sir. We're supporting the search. But Hale pressed a hand to Elias's arm, the gesture raw, civilian in its breach of distance. I saw you down there, holding the line when they wanted to move on. Thank you. From one dad to another. Reyes interjected smoothly, steering Hale back. Appreciate the thanks, Mr. Hale. Focus on the brief. Divers report in 5. The interruption was seamless, protective of the unit's boundary, but Elias felt the ripple, gratitude from outside the ranks, a crack in the institutional armor. The divers surfaced at 14:15, one hauling a line with a weighted end, the other signaling thumbs up to the shore team. Over the radio, the lead's voice broke through static. Visual on small form, 10 meters downstream, unresponsive, possible hypothermia, extracting now. The ridge erupted in controlled motion, medics prepping a backboard, handlers clearing the path, Reyes directing traffic with hand signals sharp as salutes. Elias clipped Rex's leash, the dog rising alert. Ears forward as if attuned to the unseen. They descended in tandem, boots sliding on the slick incline. The creek's roar, now a backdrop to urgent commands. Stretcher ready, clear the bank. The boy emerged from the water like a fragile artifact, limp in the diver's arms, skin pale and pruned, lips tinged blue under a shock of wet hair. Tommy Hale, no more than 4 feet long, bundled in mud-streaked clothes, a thin jacket snagged on submerged rocks. The storm's current having carried him from the debris where his pack had caught. Medics swarmed, checking vitals with stethoscopes pressed to his chest, oxygen mask fogging with shallow breaths. Pulse thready, hypothermic, but responsive to stimuli, one reported, voice steady over the chaos. Hale pushed through the cordon, collapsing to his knees beside the backboard, a sob escaping as he gripped his son's hand. Elias held Rex back at the perimeter, the Malinois straining to approach, nose questing toward the boy. The dog's whine cut low, insistent, as if confirming the scent's endgame. Protocol barred interference, K9's off-limits near medical, but Elias's grip tightened on the leash, the internal debate flaring anew. Let the medics work uninterrupted, or risk a closer pass to verify no overlooked threat. The oak refusal, the ravine dig. Each had bent the rules toward this moment, but crossing into the treatment zone could flag as overreach, especially with civilian witnesses. Reyes noticed, his voice low at Elias's shoulder. Hold him, Grant. Med team's got it. Your call saved the kid. Don't compound with exposure. But as the medics stabilized Tommy, wrapping him in thermal blankets, the boy stirred faintly, eyes fluttering open to fix on Rex across the distance. A weak murmur escaped the mask. Doggy. And Hale turned, desperation etching his plea. Let him see the dog. Please. It might help. The request hung, a civilian bridge over military lines. Elias glanced to Reyes, who weighed it in a beat, then nodded curtly. Controlled approach. 30 seconds. No contact. Elias advanced, Rex heeling close, the dog's presence a calm anchor amid the frenzy. Up close, Tommy's gaze locked on the Malinois, a small hand twitching toward him through the wrappings. Rex sat voluntarily, tail still, offering that quiet vigilance without intrusion. The moment stretched, charged with unspoken connection. The boy calming, breaths evening, as flashbulbs popped from the trailhead, local press having breached the perimeter, cameras capturing the scene in stark relief. Medevac rotors thumped in the distance, the chopper cresting the ridge like a mechanical bird of passage. As they loaded Tommy aboard, Hale saluted awkwardly to Elias, words tumbling. You and that dog, you brought him back. The doors sealed, the bird lifting off in a downdraft that scattered leaves like confetti, leaving the team in its wake. Back on the ridge, the unit regrouped, the adrenaline ebbing into procedural wind-down, gear accountability, witness statements for the deputies, but the press lingered. A reporter from the San Diego Union Tribune cornering Reyes for comment. SEAL K-9 unit credited with the find. Can you confirm the dog's role? Any details on the search? Reyes fielded it with practiced neutrality. Joint effort with local responders. K-9 assets provided detection support per protocol. No names, no heroes, standard deflection. Yet Elias caught the undercurrent. Hale's gratitude. The boy's reaction, now fodder for headlines. The Oak Defiance, once internal, edged toward visibility, the chain of command's frame tested by external eyes. By 1600, they rolled back to base, the convoy cutting through golden light, Rex's head on Elias's lap in the transport. Debrief loomed, full review with command, logs scrutinized for deviations. Elias stroked the dog's ears absently. The bond, a steady pulse against the uncertainty. Saving Tommy had validated the instincts, but the ripples spread. Questions on discretion, the cost of trusting beyond orders. In the quiet hum of tires on asphalt, Elias pondered the line, where loyalty to partner met the institution's unyielding structure, and one handler's choice could echo through the ranks like a distant thunder. The base gates loomed ahead, sentries snapping salutes, the routine reclaiming them. But as Elias logged out Rex, the dog's gaze met his with unwavering trust, a silent affirmation amid the gathering scrutiny. The storm had passed, yet the real test brewed in the barracks' fluorescent glow, where words on paper could redefine careers and conscience alike. The fluorescent lights of the briefing room hummed overhead, casting a sterile pallor over the assembled handlers as they filed in at precisely 1700 hours. Naval Base Coronado's operations center smelled of damp canvas and stale coffee, the storm's residue clinging to uniforms like an unshakable debrief note. Elias took his seat at the long table's edge. Rex crated in the adjacent kennel bay, the Malinois' soft breathing a counterpoint to the room's tension. Senior Chief Reyes stood at the head, flanked by Lieutenant Maria Voss, the unit's executive officer, her notebook open to a fresh page. Two base security officers sat opposite, clipboards in hand, their expressions neutral but probing, standard for joint op reviews. Yet Elias felt the undercurrent. The Oak Alert, now a flagged entry in the digital log. "Commence," Reyes said, his voice filling the space without amplification, the projector flickering to life with GPS overlays of the search grid. He walked them through the timeline. Insertion at 0730. Initial sweeps. Rex's halt at the Oak coordinates. Grant, walk us on the first stop. Dog's response. Your action. Elias leaned forward, gloved hands flat on the table, recounting it methodically. The whine, the refusal, the unclipped leash. Alert strength, high. No visual confirmation, but scent commitment evident. Called for backup per field discretion. Proceeded on Reyes's redirect to Delta Sector. He kept his tone even, facts layered without defense, though the room's air thickened with each detail. Voss jotted notes, her pen scratching like radio static, while one security officer cross-referenced the log against Hale's civilian report. Voss looked up, her gaze steady. Discretion noted, Lieutenant. Protocol 4-7 allows handler override for imminent threat, but this was a missing juvenile, low-threat profile. The unclip exposed the asset to uncontrolled terrain. Rationale. Elias met her eyes. The weight of the room pressing like the storm's earlier crush. Rex's track record, ma'am. 98% accuracy in obscured environments. Ignoring it risked scent dissipation in the rain. The ravine hit validated the progression. He didn't mention the internal churn, the hand hovering before the choice. In here, vulnerability stayed leashed. Reyes interjected smoothly, advancing the slide to the ravine debris. Subsequent alert bore fruit. Backpack recovery at Sunon in 30. Divers confirmed the boy's position downstream. K9 integration was key. No casualties on our end. The praise was tactical, bolstering the unit without excusing the bend. But the security officer leaned in, tapping his pen. Media's circling chief. Hale gave a statement to the Union Tribune, credits the SEAL and his dog for the save. Photos from the extraction show the K9 approach. Command's fielding inquiries. We need airtight alignment on deviations. The words landed with quiet force, the moral seam widening. Elias's mind flashed to Tommy's weak murmur. The flashbulbs capturing Rex's vigil. Moments of compassion, now potential liabilities. The chain's frame chafing against civilian gratitude. Loyalty to the dog had bridged the gap to rescue, but in the institutional lens, it risked portraying the unit as improvisers, not precision instruments. Voss closed her notebook. Appreciate the candor. Logs check out. But expect a formal inquiry. JAG review on op-tempo. Grant, your sideline from field rotations pending clearance. Standard procedure keeps the unit clean. She nodded dismissal, the meeting dissolving into murmurs as handlers rose, exchanging glances heavy with unspoken solidarity. Outside, the evening chill settled over the quad, boots echoing on concrete paths, slick from the day's end. Elias walked Rex toward the handler's barracks, the base's floodlights painting long shadows across the parade ground. The dog's leash was loose, his gait steady, oblivious to the scrutiny now shadowing their partnership. In the kennel block, Elias filled the water bowl, the metal clang sharp in the quiet. "Steady, boy," he murmured, scratching behind Rex's ears, the fur still damp from a post-op rinse. The gesture was routine, but tonight it carried the day's echo, the refusal at the oak, the ravine pull, choices that saved a life yet invited the system's gaze. His radio buzzed on his belt, Voss summoning him to her office. He secured Rex, the crate latching with a definitive click, then reported to the admin wing. Voss waited behind her desk, a stack of printouts before her. Press clippings, the Hale statement circled in red. "Sit, Lieutenant, this isn't formal, yet. The boy's stable. Hypothermia treated, released to family this evening. Hale's pushing for recognition. Wants to nominate you and Rex for a civilian commendation." Elias remained at attention, cap under his arm. "Mum." She slid a photo across. The extraction scene. Rex seated near the backboard, Tommy's hand extended. "It's gaining traction. Local news running it tomorrow. Command's concerned about optics. SEAL ops stay classified. Spotlight on K9 discretion could invite questions on training protocols. Your calls today, effective, but they highlight gaps in joint guidelines for non-combat searches." The dilemma sharpened. Duty's rigid lines blurring against the human ripple. Elias had acted on conscience, trusting the bond that defined their edge, but the institution demanded uniformity, reform through procedure, not individual instinct. "Understood, ma'am? Recommendations?" Voss's expression softened fractionally, a rare breach in the hierarchy. "Advise Hale to route through base channels, no direct contact, and log any future alerts with dual confirmation. We'll brief the team on it. Your record's solid, Grant. Kandahar to hear, but integrity's a blade, cuts both ways in scrutiny." He saluted and exited, the door clicking shut behind him like a suppressed round. The quad was empty now, stars pricking the cleared sky, the Pacific's distant murmur a reminder of boundaries held. Back at the kennel, Rex rose as Elias entered, tail wagging low, sensing the shift without words. Elias knelt, clipping on the grooming brush, working through the coat in steady strokes, the ritual a tether amid the brewing storm. By 2000, word spread through the barracks, whispers of the inquiry, Hale's thanks relayed via deputy channels, the press photo pinned to a bulletin board like an unofficial medal. Torres cornered Elias in the mess, her tray balanced with MRE remnants. Heard about the sidelining, Brass overreacting, Rex pulled the win. "Procedure's procedure," Elias replied, sipping water from a canteen, his voice measured. "Keeps us sharp." But inside, the cost tallied. Rotations paused, potential transfer whispers, the bond with Rex now under the microscope. Loyalty wasn't just to the dog. It extended to the unit. The quiet reform needed to align instinct with orders. As lights out approached, Elias reviewed his personal journal by desk lamp, entries precise. Oak coordinates, ravine depth, the boy's vitals from the medic log. The defiance had sparked visibility, the reckoning public now, rippling toward change. In the SEAL ethos, such tests forged legacy, not through acclaim, but through the subtle shifts in protocol that honored both man and canine. Rex curled at the foot of the bunk, breath even, trust unyielding, as Elias extinguished the light, the darkness holding the promise of tomorrow's tribunal. The morning briefing room at Naval Base Coronado felt smaller under the weight of scrutiny, its walls paneled in scuffed oak that absorbed the low murmur of voices like spent casings. Elias stood at ease in the front row, his dress blues pressed crisp despite the faint creases from overnight quarters, Rex's commendation ribbon pinned neatly above his ribbon stack. The unit filled the seats behind him, handlers like Torres shifting subtly, their postures a mirror of disciplined restraint, while Senior Chief Reyes flanked the podium, his face a mask of operational neutrality. At 0800 sharp, Captain Harlan Voss entered, the executive officer's predecessor, now overseeing the inquiry as acting tribunal lead. 2 JAG officers trailed him, briefcases in hand, their collars starched to razor edges. The air carried the tang of fresh brewed coffee from the sideboard, undercut by the metallic scent of the air recyclers humming overhead. "Attention!" Reyes called, the room snapping to feet in unison, chairs scraping like synchronized footfalls. Voss waved them down, his presence commanding without volume, the silver eagles on his shoulders catching the fluorescent glare. "This is a formal review of Operation Echo Search, dated 14th October. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant, Petty Officer Lena Torres, and Senior Chief Harlan Reyes present your accounts. JAG will query deviations from Protocol 47 on K9 field discretion." Elias stepped forward first, his voice steady as he recited the sequence. Arrival at the trailhead, Rex's initial alert at the Oak, the unclipped investigation yielding no immediate yield, but guiding the downstream progression. He detailed the ravine debris clearance, the backpack recovery, and the controlled K9 approach during extraction, each fact layered with timestamps from his GPS log, no embellishment, just the procedural spine of the op. The JAG lead, a wiry lieutenant with wire-rimmed glasses, interjected at intervals. "Confirm leash release at 0745, standard for alert confirmation." Elias affirmed, "Per handler training module 12B, ma'am, contained to 5 meters, no uncontrolled pursuit." Torres followed, her testimony corroborating the ravine effort. Assisting in the manual clear, the canvas snag on her blade, the scent verification from Kira mirroring Rex's lock. Reyes closed the loop, framing the unit's cohesion. Redirects issued, risks mitigated, the rescue outcome validating the chain's flexibility. But the undercurrent pulsed. Hale's media statement, the Union Tribune photo splashed across local feeds by dawn, headlines framing "Seal Dog's Defiance Saves Child." Voss paused the projector on the image, Rex seated vigilant, Tommy's hand outstretched, its pixels stark against the screen. "Optics matter," Voss stated, his tone even, eyes scanning the room. "Joint civilian ops demand precision. Deviations invite external narrative. Grant your discretion at the Oak, effective in hindsight, but it exposed assets to unverified terrain. Explain the moral calculus. Orders versus instinct." Elias held the captain's gaze. the room's silence thick as pre-dawn fog. Sir, the bond with Rex is operational core, forged in theater, where alerts precede visuals. Protocol allows override for life safety. The boy's profile escalated it. Obeying tempo risked the scent trail. Trusting the dog preserved it. The words emerged measured, conscience threaded through duty, no plea for absolution. Torres nodded faintly from her seat. The handler's quiet solidarity, a subtle current beneath the formal lines. The JAG lieutenant leaned forward, flipping through deposition printouts. Civilian witness Mr. Hale cites your refusal to move on as pivotal. Press is amplifying when orders clashed with a dog's nose. Commands fielding congressional inquiries. This ripples to training directives. Voss absorbed it, then addressed the unit broadly. Integrity isn't rogue, it's calibrated within frame. This review isn't punishment, it's refinement. Recommendations: mandatory dual-handler confirmation for non-visual alerts in joint scenarios. Grant, your log informs the update. Dismissal came at 09:30, the tribunal adjourning to close session, leaving the handlers to file out into the quad's crisp air. Sunlight slanted across the parade ground, glinting off brass plaques on the flagpole, the Pacific breeze carrying salt and resolve. Elias walked Rex from the kennel annex, the Malinois' paws padding soft on the gravel path, his coat brushed to a uniform sheen. The dog's presence grounded him, a living emblem of the trust now under institutional lens, the whine at the oak, the ravine bark, instincts that bent but didn't break the chain. Torres caught up in the mess hall line, trays clattering as they queued for midday rations, grilled chicken, steamed greens, the routine sustenance of recovery. Brass chewed but no mast, she said low, spearing a forkful. Your call sparked the guideline tweak. Hale called the office, wants to present at the next all hands. Elias nodded, sipping from a stainless mug, the coffee bitter on his tongue. Chain absorbs it. Rex did the work. But the visibility lingered. Base email blasts directing media protocols, whispers in the barracks of expanded K9 SIMs incorporating civilian variables. The defiance, once a solitary fracture, now fueled quiet reform, protocols evolving to honor the bond without unraveling cohesion. By afternoon, Voss summoned Elias to the ops deck, the room overlooking the training fields where handlers drilled in formation, leashes extended like lifelines. Tribunals closed, the captain said, handing over a sealed envelope. No fault assigned, commendation for the unit. But Hale's pushing a public ceremony. Contractor appreciation event next week. Command approves your attendance with Rex, symbol of integration. Elias accepted the envelope, its weight light but resonant. Understood, sir. Clears rotations? Affirmative. And a note. Your discretion's logged as case study for the academy. Teaches the balance. Duty's edge sharpened by conscience. Voss's clap on his shoulder was brief, paternal in its brevity, the hierarchy yielding just enough space for growth. As Elias exited, the fields below buzzed with activity. New drills incorporating tandem alerts, Reyes barking adjustments mid-stride. Rex heeled close, sensing the shift, his tail a low sweep against Elias's calf. The public reckoning had crested, not in reprimand, but in evolution, the institution learning from one handler's stand. In the SEAL code, such moments wove legacy into the fabric, loyalty to partner rippling through ranks like a well-executed flank. Evening fell with measured calm, the sun dipping toward the horizon in a blaze of disciplined gold, casting long shadows over the kennels. Elias groomed Rex under the halogens, brush strokes rhythmic, the dog's eyes half-lidded in trust. The storm's chaos had forged this, conscience-tested, reform-ignited, the cost of integrity paid in scrutiny but redeemed in subtle strength. Tomorrow's ceremony loomed, witnesses beyond the wire, but here, in the quiet bond, the true victory held. a system bending toward what it valued most. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Elias, Grant, and Rex reach those who still believe in honor. The week blurred into a cadence of drills and revisions, the base's rhythm unbroken, yet subtly altered by the Oak's echo. Elias moved through the handler's rotations with Rex at his side, the Malinois' paws clipping steady on the dew-kissed asphalt of the morning PT track. The air carried the sharp tang of ocean spray mingled with the faint ozone of recent rain, a reminder of the storm that had upended more than terrain. Command had circulated the updated protocol memo by midweek, K9 Field Discretion Guidelines, Revision 2. 1. Mandating dual handler verification for non-visual alerts in joint civilian operations. Elias's log from the search served as the appendix. Anonymized but influential, its coordinates mapped as a case study in the annex. No fanfare accompanied the change. In the SEAL world, reform arrived like a quiet order, absorbed into the chain without disruption. Reyes pulled Elias aside during a midday gear check in the armory, the metallic clink of harness buckles punctuating their exchange. Racks of leashes and vests lined the walls, polished to a uniform gleam under fluorescent strips. "Your input shaped it, Grant," the senior chief said, coiling a line with precise twists. "Brass ran sims yesterday. Tandem alerts cut false positives by 12%. Hale's event tomorrow? You're the face, but keep it procedural, no stories, facts on integration." Elias nodded, securing Rex's vest with a snap, the dog's flank warm against his knuckles. "Understood, Chief. Rex leads. I follow." The sidelining had lifted days prior, rotations resuming with a nod from Voss, but the scrutiny lingered in subtle ways. Extra eyes on his logs, a new emphasis in briefings on balanced instinct. The cost of integrity manifested not in demotion, but in vigilance. Every choice now a potential precedent. The bond with Rex elevated from personal trust to institutional asset. The contractor appreciation ceremony unfolded at 1400 in the base's multi-purpose hall, a low-slung building overlooking the training fields where handlers drilled in the distance, their commands drifting like radio chatter on the breeze. Folding chairs lined rows under banners of unit insignia, the air conditioned to a crisp neutrality that masked the faint scent of floor polish and fresh coffee from the refreshment table. Mike Hale stood at the podium, his contractor badge pinned to a civilian suit, Tommy at his side in a crisp shirt, the boy's cheeks still pale, but eyes bright with recovery. A cluster of bass brass occupied the front row, Voss among them, his posture erect, while local press hovered at the edges, notebooks at the ready, their cameras subdued per security protocols. Hale cleared his throat, microphone feedback humming briefly before settling. "On behalf of my family, thank you for this platform. Last week in the storm, we lost Tommy to the woods, but thanks to the dedication of Naval Base Coronado's K9 team, he's here today." He gestured to the side entrance, where Elias entered with Rex healing precisely, the Malinois' harness reflecting the overhead lights. The room stirred, a ripple of applause breaking the formality, flashbulbs popping in controlled bursts. Tommy's face lit up, the boy waving shyly as Hale continued. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant and his partner Rex didn't just follow procedure, they trusted what mattered. This plaque is from us for the unit. Elias approached the podium, Rex sitting alert at his boot, tail still as a salute. He accepted the etched acrylic award, simple, engraved with the search date and for unyielding vigilance, with a crisp nod, his free hand resting lightly on the dog's head. "Mr. Hale, Tommy, the team appreciates this. Our role was support in a joint effort. K9 units like Rex embody the trust that saves lives, on base and beyond." His words stayed mission-focused, no embellishment, yet the room absorbed the subtext. The Oak refusal, the Ravine persistence, now symbols of calibrated courage. Voss met his eye from the front, a faint nod of approval threading through the hierarchy. As the ceremony wrapped, Hale pulled Elias aside near the exit, the hall emptying into the afternoon sun that warmed the concrete steps. Tommy knelt to pet Rex, the dog's tongue lolling in gentle acceptance, wet fur brushing the boy's fingers. "You two changed everything," Hale said, voice low against the departing chatter. "Tommy talks about the brave dog every night. If there's a way to give back, training donations, whatever." "Appreciated, sir," Elias replied, clipping the leash as they rose. "Route it through command. Strengthens the program." The exchange was brief, boundaries intact, but it planted seeds. Hale's contractor network buzzing with support, whispers of expanded K9 funding filtering through ops channels by week's end. Back in the kennel block that evening, the routine reclaimed them. Elias hosing down gear under the industrial lights, water sluicing mud from crates, Rex pacing his run with contented huffs. Torres joined him, drying towels on a rack, her shepherd Kira dozing nearby. "Saw the plaque in the hall. Brass is using it for recruitment vids. Trust in the bond. Your oak calls the hook." Elias wrung out a line, the twist precise. "Not mine. Rex's nose. Protocol caught up. That's the win." Yet the transformation settled deeper. Handlers now paired on alerts during sims, the unit's edge honed without fracture. Voss had pulled him into mentorship the day prior, leading a seminar for incoming trainees on instinct within frame. Elias's log projected as the core text. Careers rippled outward. Torres tapped for advanced certification, Reyes eyeing a training billet, the defiance sparking quiet elevation across the ranks. By lights out, Elias reviewed the day's entries in his journal, the pen scratching under the bunk lamp's glow. The institution had learned, not through upheaval, but adaptation, conscience woven into procedure like a reinforced seam. Rex curled at his feet, breath syncing with the distant hum of the base's night watch, loyalty's legacy etched in every shared patrol. In the end, Elias Grant became more than a handler, a quiet emblem of moral strength, proving that within rigid systems, one dog's refusal could guide the whole toward greater justice. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of A Little Boy Went Missing in the Storm. The SEAL's K9 stopped at the tree and refused to move. See you in the next one.